Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Today is Friday. The days are off a little bit. We have a impromptu sort of quick Java with Jimmy this morning. I have a special guest that's coming in the room. We have the honor of meeting this young man. I saw him a lot on social media during the campaign, and it is definitely a privilege to have him in the room. But I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and go ahead and share this, because we are going to talk about Michelle Wu's pathway to victory. We're going to talk about Black Boston's role in it, this young man's observations. He is not from Boston, and so I'm curious to hear his observations in his baptism by fire in a historic election here in the city of Boston. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and share this real quick before I go ahead and bring him in the room. Invite somebody in. We have not had a Freestyle Friday in a long time. And so I want to make sure that people take advantage of it. We have Darren Howell and Anthony Collins who are coming into the room later this afternoon as well. And so let me just get some things together here, and we're going to bring him right in right now real quick. Brother Anthony of the AJ system. So I presume you got a whole firm and you just do this, and we'll get into that because we definitely want to celebrate you, Black man. But welcome to the Java Cafe. This is a very impromptu sort of edition of the Java Cafe. We want to thank Frank Farrell for making this connection. You and I were sharing some things from each other online on Twitter and Instagram. And so was very familiar with you. And then I got a text last night that said you're a beast. And so I'm like, okay, I need to get this brother in the room, because one of the things we like to do in this space is make sure we just the regular laymen, probably the threes and fours that people don't go for, we try to get them educated and involved. And so welcome to the cafe. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how old you are, just because I know Michelle was very adamant about having diverse and young people. And so just go ahead and introduce yourself, man, and we'll go from there.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be in this space and just be sharing with you. As was stated, my name is Anthony Davis Jr. I am, as you see here, a political strategist. I see myself as a political strategist. am 27 years old. I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area. So I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But this was definitely one of my not my first experience working in Boston politics. I actually had the chance and opportunity to work on Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley's 2018 congressional race.
I heard about
yes. And then I worked on Senator Elizabeth Warren's presidential campaign as one of her organizers, kind of covering the southern region. And so I was managing about 12 states in the South for her during her presidential run, and then went down to Georgia to be her organizing director in the state a little bit before she dropped out of the race. And then I did spend some time last summer on Joe Kennedy's Senate race, ran his Boston operation as well. Things, didn't go as well, but I would say all of the other Boston political opportunities I've had have been great. I mean, Ayanna, working on her campaign, and then Michelle, both historic victories in the city of Boston and the state. And so, those were just like two awesome experiences to really get indoctrinated into Boston politics. And so, you know, like I said, 27 years old, been in Boston now for like the last 3 or 4 years, off and on working in politics, and really have enjoyed myself, definitely.
Awesome. And so we're going to jump right in. And I know folks are in, and I usually do greetings and say, good morning to folks out. And there's only about 5. So let's just do that real quick. We have Lasagna Hart Turner. Good morning, Lasagna. Good morning, Patrice. Another Anthony Davis there. Okay, watch out.
My
there.
pops. That's my pops.
You have an honorable young man. Sir. And yes, we definitely had the go-go beat. And so that was actually done by Tyrone Chase. I don't know if you ever heard of that name. He was the MD for Brian McKnight for a while. He's from DC, and I purposely curated that track from him for the authentic go-go. So Pops, shout out to you, sir. And also to my sister, Nikki. And so I want to show you something real quick. And I just, you can talk while we put it on screen, but if I show you this, what did you laugh?
I do when I look at this. Sometimes I it's unbelievable to me what we were able to accomplish, but I think that it was definitely unexpected. I mean, to get as many votes as we did, and to get more votes than Mayor Walsh ever received in a mayoral election. Just shows the power.
Wait. So
I'm going too far.
No, you're good. You're good. Because I don't know how much of the political punditry you've been. I mean, you're on a historic campaign, so you're aware that Marty Walsh actually made at that time Councilor Wu's announcement. I don't know if you heard that.
Yes.
And so, there were a couple of things, and over the years when I would meet with Councilor Wu, and I would go back and say, "How come you haven't followed up?" And things were interesting on the other side of 5. Let's just leave it like that. So for you to make that point from a political punditry, sort of politically petty thing, just observant of things, she got more votes than former Mayor Walsh did in both elections.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. We're going to get a lot of other little tidbits there. So when I show you that map, man, like give me one word that you would use to describe how you felt when you saw the map. You knew you won, but when you actually, men, we tend to be visual. When you saw this, like, what was the first thing that came to your mind, man?
Just pride, honestly.
Okay.
I was proud.
Okay. Good. And as a Black man, we're going to go there for a second. And so you worked on some very Congresswoman Presley is a friend and sister. She's been here quite a few times. As a Black man, not from Boston, being engulfed. I mean, this one, Congresswoman Presley's was historic, was probably a fight. But this one, because you were in other cities, Boston, I asked you about the map. How would you describe Boston politics as a Black man?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I think that just like as a Black man, well, one thing I can say about Boston politics in comparison, I mean, just running down my intro in the beginning, I've worked in a lot of different spaces in a lot of different states, a lot of different communities, and I would just say the Boston electorate is just far superior to any other place. I mean, the voters here understand the power of their vote. They understand that you have to earn their vote, and I would say I would double down on that in the Black community, in the fact that I saw, and my observations from the field was that, Black voters definitely value their vote, and they don't want to be pandered towards. They don't want to be told there's 100 million reasons why you should be supporting me. They just want you to be authentic and keep a very similar message, and then do your job in building coalition. So that's the thing. That's my other reaction when I look at that map, is just that that's the result of the coalition that Michelle built and that our campaign built. After the preliminary, there were a lot of pundits, there were a lot of people within our community who said, like, who were very anxious. Like, I would just say, like, as a Black man, I felt a lot of the anxiety that was kind of being transferred onto our campaign from Black Boston, because there was just like this anxiety about, or this angst around, like, how is Michelle going to win the Black vote? And to me, that question, I felt like she was doing everything needed. And I think that we didn't necessarily change our strategy when it came to the general election and trying to win some of these Black communities. Yes, we kind of brought in our coalition, and by having certain endorsers join, and Darren, who you'll be having later, having 1199 on the team, 32BJ, right to the
Shout out to
city.
Lita. Yep. Right to
Yep,
the city
yep.
is not Lydia. Oh God, I forgot who the leader is over there. Not Lizette. Oh God, I work with the BIPOC group, and so I was trying to get the remember the name. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Definitely a huge coalition.
Yeah, and I mean, Frank, who connected us and got
Hold on.
me on the show.
Hold on for 1 second, because Frank is a low key type of brother, and so I don't get the chance to do this too often. Bro, we appreciate you, man. And so, speaking of Frank, I have some
Definitely.
interesting numbers around Roxbury.
Yeah.
You have some stats on Roxbury?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that one thing that we were, obviously as strategists, as organizers, we build out these, like, on election day, we build out turnout models. And
Okay.
so we have our estimates in terms of like how we think the election will go in terms of turnout. And
Yep.
so we monitor that throughout the day. So the city gives you turnout counts throughout the day on election day. And so one thing that we saw immediately as we were monitoring the turnout and kind of comparing it against our model was that Roxbury's turnout was above anything that we were modeling, anything that we anticipated, that we were
Mhm.
projecting. And that's directly a result of Frank being there and organizing in the neighborhood.
Can you please say it again slowly for the people in the back? Say it one more again.
Man, that is 100% a direct result of Frank organizing in Roxbury. Roxbury's turnout was up and surpassed any model that we had.
So my understanding is that Roxbury, a stat I have here from some pundits just play with numbers and stuff, is Michelle won Roxbury 75% to 24%, making the largest margin of victory for a neighborhood in the entire city.
Yep.
Shout out to Roxbury.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one thing that, like, for us, I I I struggled on election day because once we saw that, like, at 9 a.m.,
Yeah.
there were it was difficult to really keep the organizers like, y'all, we gotta stay on the phone, y'all, we gotta stay on the doors, because at that point, like, we felt very confident by like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. that the race was over. I mean, we did the organizing ahead of time so
Wait.
that
Because in Boston politics, and if I say please forgive me, but
no
Anthony,
problem.
Mr. Davis, actually, in Boston politics, you go hard until 7:50. I remember in 13, we were literally on doors till 8 o'clock, pulling
Yeah,
people in the polling station till 7:59. But at 10 a.m., you had a level of confidence that
absolutely.
lends to where would that come from?
I
I
mean,
know. I need the people to understand the process. Come on, sir.
we had did the organizing. I mean, I think that one thing that we saw, I mean, I think, well, one thing that I will say is that, to your point, Michelle really did the job of kind of hiring a very diverse team in terms of age, in terms of race. And so we were able to make inroads into every community. We were able to organize in every community without pandering, without having to put people who didn't
What?
identify, without pandering, or having people who didn't identify or look like the community organizing there. And so for us, that for me as the organizing director, that was a big focus for me. And so, we throughout the campaign, we knocked thousands upon thousands of doors, made thousands upon thousands of calls, sent thousands upon thousands of texts. And so we had the IDs that showed us with Black voters winning 2-1. And so we knew, like, once we saw Roxbury was up, we're like, oh, that's our vote. Like, once we saw Dorchester was performing all right, certain parts of Dorchester, I should say, we knew, like, that's our vote. And so,
Go ahead. Well,
yeah.
let's go there. What do you mean, certain parts of Dorchester? And then we're going to go into Mattapan, because there's another brother you mentioned that we need to celebrate around Mattapan. But what do you mean, certain parts of Dorchester? Go there a little bit. Let's look at the map again, just one more.
Well, we all, I haven't been in Boston for a long time.
Uh-huh.
But I will say one of the first lessons that I learned in Boston Poly was that there are two Dorchesters. Um,
I'm listening. Go ahead, sir.
There are. I'm trying to also keep this like somewhat politically correct while explaining this, but you can see just if you show the map one more time, there's this coastal area in Dorchester that is red for Anissa Sabi George, and then you have your inner parts of Dorchester that are blue for Michelle and kind of flow right into Roxbury, that flow right into JP and Rosendale and kind of Mattapan, Hyde Park, somewhat. And so there was a different electorate that we were playing for in Dorchester. I think we understood going into the general that, you know, that was the coastal parts of Dorchester were going to be her strong parts.
You call it coastal because you know, no disrespect, you're not from here. I'll say that's over there by Neponset, Gallivan Boulevard, Savin Hill, all that area where there was a bunch of migration through the years over from Southie. Okay, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Thank you for saying that. No, thank you for saying it that plainly, because I could. And that's where that's also where she lives. And so, you know, I think one of the other things that is very important.
Did you say that's also where she lives? And the fact that we know, go ahead. I'm sorry. This is good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, but the other thing was that we never considered any area we didn't not play for any parts of the city. Like we had organizers. We had one organizer who was solely dedicated to South Boston, this coastal piece of Dorchester and Charlestown, which are like places that you would think like we're just going to go ahead and just consider those a wash and just play for the other vote. But we organized everywhere. And you can see even again on the map, we won some South Boston precincts that we probably shouldn't have, or were competitive in some of these precincts that we shouldn't have been. And Charlestown, similar concept. Like I think we actually won Charlestown as a whole. And you know, these are areas, neighborhoods that going into the general, like when we first started out, a lot of people were like, why are you investing money? Like, why? We hired an organizer to take on these parts of the city, because we just knew that like ultimately like Michelle cared about organizing everywhere. And that was from day one. That was something that she made very clear to me, and that she wanted to be the mayor of every single neighborhood, every single part of the city. And so we had to put boots on the ground everywhere and not consider any part of the city a wash. And 90,000 votes later, you can see the results of that.
So I just want you to know, I don't know if you heard, Java with Jimmy did a little election night watch party over K's. And shout out to Darren for making that space available. Speaking of Darren,
please let's talk about this, brother. Please let's talk about this, brother.
So Frank Roxbury, black man. Mattapan, certain parts of Dorchester. Who held that down, sir?
So I got to give a shout out to our organizer on our team, Keisha Santana, who was organizing a lot of these communities during the prelim as well, when it was a little bit more difficult to really get some traction going, when we didn't have the endorsers, when we didn't have the union's support. And so she kind of just like put some type of footprint into these neighborhoods. But I will say that, you know, post prelim, having 1199 join the coalition, having Darren be literally a rock for us during GOTV. I mean, this man, really for all of the general election, from the prelim to the general election, they own Mattapan, and to your point, parts of Dorchester as well for us. And they killed it. I mean, like they talked to us every weekend. They were there knocking thousands of doors out of our Blue Hill Ave office, which I think was also another major piece to our campaign. Really like opening that office and being in community, and having people like Frank, having people like Darren, Clifton Braithwaite, who also sat in that office, people who are known, people who have some type of like, they're validators for us in the community. And then for Darren to be also putting his troops to work and really just owning parts of Dorchester and all of Mattapan for us. I mean, that again, the results shows for itself, but it was a major addition to the team.
I wanted to I think I may have said it before, but we did the first prediction. I saw those numbers coming in, and then we had that open source form from Matt McCloskey, who I'm sure you're familiar with that. And when you just looked at who was voting, where the gaps were, it was just like, okay, this is pretty much a wrap. And so a couple of things I want to say before we go, and Jessica raises this well, and she's a messaging queen. And it's no disrespect to you at all, but it does build on the fact, and I can point to that, you know, from when Michelle came in as an intern. This election outcome was a result, partially, I would add, a result of years of relationship building and, of course, Anthony's incredible organizing leadership with other Black men. Let's just name again, Darren Howell, Frank Farrow, Cliff, and yourself. And you can't celebrate the kings without celebrating the queens, like Jessica, like
Brianna Miller.
I guess no. Say Millar before she gets you. Say Millar. Yeah. Shout out to Brianna, and Darren is actually in the room, brother.
Hey man, shout out to you, Darren. I appreciate you, brother.
Darren, hit that share button real quick. But it is. I have to say to you, sir, because I used to work for the Menino administration and also campaigned not hard, but there has not been a machine in Boston since this election. And Darren and I had some conversation about what he classifies as criteria and what I classify. I immediately, he taught me some stuff. I say the machine is just a lot in every precinct, everything you talked about. You had an organizer for every, and don't think I didn't miss the point that you had one organizer for Charlestown, that certain part of Southie. That didn't go beyond me. But I mean, Michelle was taking, and I'm sure you've heard about him, a legend in the city. She was on every corner. My understanding, Darren was sharing with me that she was trying to get to every location and every office. And so it was definitely a lot. We only have you for 5 more minutes, sir. When it came to you had the assurance in the morning. At what point in the evening was there even, I might get in trouble for asking for how you respond. Was there even at any point where it was like, did you just make a decision at a time we're going to call it? Or did you, like, when did it get to a point where you all were like, it's official?
Yeah, I do want to just quickly touch on Jessica's note really quickly.
Yes.
One of the things that I said throughout the entire campaign for the 14 months that I was there was that my job was made easy because of Michelle's 8 years of running elections. You know, when I came in, I think I'm a great organizer, and I think that I'm good at my job, but there was so much already there, so much energy and excitement around her and her candidacy that it was just easy to kind of just harness that energy and organize it. And so I, was just very, very just engulfed in Boston politics from day one on this campaign, because I saw that, Michelle had such an impact on this entire city, and that there were so many people who were ready to do work for her. And so it made my job 10 times easier. Go ahead.
I just want to, one, it's definitely dope. Michelle and I got our start at the same time on 5 with Menino. So her orientation to neighborhood services, constituent services, her familiarity on, and you get this, on the campaigns end, how can I say this without getting in trouble with some of the alumni? The mayor would always just tell us, if it's not purity of heart to do it for the constituent and you're tired or something, at least understand the impact that after 5 you get from, helping out a constituent. But it is definitely kind of touching here that your parents are in saying, on behalf of Lisa Davis, who I presume is your mom, and myself, thank you, Boston, for embracing Anthony and the platform that he's that has allowed him to shine. So you sticking around?
Yeah, man. I see myself here for a little while, at least.
Well, there's a couple of elections this year, so if this is your wheelhouse,
I think that there may be some work. Tuesday night, there were a few people. Wednesday morning, there were a few people.
Come, sir.
I think that there'll be some work. I think there'll be some work.
I think there'll be some work. Listen, I want to also make sure we cannot forget, I've known this one of them since he was a young man, and the other one, he's older than me, Tony Brewer, Will Dickerson. Will Dickerson, definitely. Everywhere I went with Michelle to kind of show up as quasi press, Will was right there. And Tony, woo. Sometimes I wanted to go take it. But we got 2 minutes.
Got a little bit of time.
Okay. What do you, as a black man, sir, in the city, you had that experience you mentioned. How do you interpret Michelle's commitment to still continue to build a coalition, to still continue to listen, to still continue? Because I said to people, almost as a critique, you've been in rooms where if she doesn't have a pulse, she won't make a decision. If she hasn't heard from the community and she's not sure, she'll be just a whole bunch of little bit of intersectional brainiac ambiguity because she's trying to figure it out because she hasn't got a definitive pulse from the community. What is your interpretation from working with her this close, being around her, on a political end? You were with the Warren campaign. We shout out because there's a camp there, Chelsea. I'm sure you know Chelsea. And so shout out to her. She just recently had a birthday. Happy birthday, belated birthday, Chelsea. What is your impression of Michelle by your experience of her commitment to engage? And Black and Brown Boston had a huge. How much would you say had a huge role in her victory? How would you put that?
I mean, I think that to your point, Michelle is definitely indoctrinated in the Menino way. And so from everything that I've heard about this, from everything I've heard about Mayor Menino, he made a point to make sure that he talked to every single resident in Boston. And so I see the same thing when I watch Michelle. When I watched Michelle over the last 14 months on the campaign trail, her ability and her desire to really roll up her sleeves and be in community and listen to community, it informs every decision that she makes. And I think that also, to the point that we made earlier, having people like Brianna, having people like Jessica, having people like our campaign manager, Mary Lou, I want to give her a special shout out. Got to give her a shout out. Could not close this without giving her a shout out.
She has a nickname for me. She's called Queen Self-Care. Because I heard that she had. Go ahead. Y'all see he's like me. You see,
man. I was just talking to someone yesterday about the fact that we ran a totally different campaign from any campaign that I've ever been on, but yet we still won. Like there was 100% a dedication. So I'll use an anecdote. So Mary Lou, on a pretty regular basis, at least a couple times a week, when people would leave the office, she would ask, "What are you going to do for yourself today?" And I just think that that simple question just sows a seed in your mind. To have your campaign manager ask that question, it sows a seed in your mind that you should, when you leave this office, you can put work down. Like you can turn off your phone, you can do something for yourself. And I feel like traditionally, and in most of my experience working on campaigns, it's really around the clock. It's really 24/7. There is very rarely,
especially in your role. In your role.
Absolutely. You gotta be responsive to community. And so there's never been a higher up or someone who I saw who was my boss who cared about, really cared about self-care, who cared about you doing things for yourself. And that was a priority for her. I mean, we had days off up until 2 weeks out from the election. Like everybody at least had one day off a week. Right after the preliminary ended, she mandated that everyone take 3 days off. Although we only had 6 weeks to really run the campaign, she mandated everybody at least take 3 days off. And that's the type of person that she is.
I know a couple, and Mary Lou, don't get them in trouble, but I know a couple of people who didn't because there was we were getting work done. We
try and take days off, but you always want to be responsive. I mean, we had 6 weeks to go. And so it was just yeah, you took these 3 days off from work and being in the office, but you're still responding to people on email. You're still getting text messages and calls. And I mean, but it's still the fact that at least our campaign manager prioritized making sure that we took this time. It was real.
I want to ask you, I'm going to shoot you a little bit of a dinger, but I'm sure, and Michelle is definitely a friend, and she's the first candidate in a while that I said, okay, I would consider doing some things for since 2013. And that's some context in which I want to check in with you about. But there's a little conversation going on here on behalf of the family. And then somehow, when you were talking about people approaching you, the price is up though. Where's one? Here we go, Rhonda. Yesterday's price is not today's price. You were the director for a historical. This city, as you said, is like no other when it comes to politics. Black man, Get your money. Get your money, sir. Make them pay you for what you're worth. With that being said, about 2013, I referenced to Black man. You're not from here, but I'm sure you heard terms like 2013 again. That there were other Black people. There were Black people in the prelim and whatnot. From a Black male's perspective, being not from the city, having observation, sir, what is it that you would say? And I'm asking him this, so y'all don't how can he? I'm asking him his opinion because sometimes we so ingrained and conditioned in here, sir. What is it that you would say to Black Boston when it comes to just I mean, you saw a display of our power in supporting Michelle, absolutely. But there is, in all fairness, there is this sort of prelim school of thought that had we. So what is it that you would say to Black Boston based on your observations? Oh, go ahead. I see the face, and I know.
I told someone yesterday that if Black Boston was organized, that we would have been facing either Andrea Campbell or Kim Janey in the final, and that would have made a total difference in the election. I think that.
Because you know that
I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble for this.
No, because that statement is so loaded. Because one, obviously knowing that Kim or Andrea would have been one or two, and then Michelle would have been the other, with no consideration for the other one. You about to be Mama and Papa Davis. He got, along with, I'm sure, Frank and Darren and everybody else. He got to be, listen, this brother's adopted. We're going to get you some baked beans. No, we're going to take you to Slade's and get you some.
Yeah, that's my spot.
Oh, so you've been there. All right, dope. Listen, we're going to look out for you. I know it's past 11. I want to stay in touch, sir, and check in with you because sometimes Darren and Anthony Collins, they're coming on and we debrief around, numbers and whatnot. And we're not just doing it around the election. There's going to be a monthly gathering because your knowledge base, I know with others is needed. So regular, everyday Joe Schmoes can understand the electoral process. You know what I mean? So King, I celebrate you. Wait a minute, hold on. Pops is not. Pops said all them school loans. Jesus.
Man, that's real.
Listen, from up here, we say 3 for the stripes. So Pops put 3 bags in there. I'm not mad. Listen. And Chip, I'm sure you know who Chip. I'm honored because I don't ever think I've seen your name pop up in the cafe, bro. We communicate on Twitter, but good to see you in here. I'm going to get ready to go and let you go, but definitely you are welcome to come back. Definitely, if you ever need anything on the organizing help, a poll side, shout out at a brother because I want to be like you when I grow up. But I celebrate you, King, and all the other kings that we named and queens, definitely. It is just definitely awesome to see you doing what you're doing and sense definitely a sincerity about you. And oh God, Jessica wrote a whole paragraph. The conversations would have been so much more fruitful if we were against AJC or Kim Janey. Unfortunately, the media made the conversations around slumlords, ads full of lies and measly 100. So he can't.
That wasn't a fun election. That wasn't.
So
I
can
think
we
that we would have had a much. It would have been a much more fruitful. I mean, I agree with what Jessica's saying. It would have been a much more fruitful and actual conversations that would have propelled this city forward versus rehashing some of the old Boston that we were trying to move forward from and really get, rid ourselves of some of the old Boston tactics politically. We saw those rear their heads. And I mean, I think the results are a clear kind of showing that this old way of Boston, this old way of campaigning, this old way of really approaching the electorate, it doesn't work anymore. People want to talk about issues. People don't want to hear you use xenophobia, use racism to try and scare tactics to try and win an election. Like we saw Trump do this. Boston is not going to fall for that, and it showed that. It showed it.
And let's just also name, and I'm sure you know this, it wasn't the people that were lighter than me that were using those tactics. It wasn't just them. There were some folks that looked like you and I that were adopting some of those tactics. And so listen, if there's ever anything that you don't want to say because you may feel a little bit uncomfortable, Call me, Frank, somebody, Darren. We got your back, bro. I almost cussed.
That's for sure.
You know, there's certain statements you got to follow up with SH.
Yeah.
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 And I appreciate you, man. Definitely want to keep in touch. And the platform is here, sir. If you ever want to get a pulse from what the community is saying, absolutely. And let me know how we can support you, sir.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me again, man. This was great.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And to Mom and Pop Davis, he's definitely going. He got a lot of people looking out for him. And so we'll see you guys back today. I don't have that flyer ready. We'll see you. Actually, I'll let you go. I'll put the flyer up and do a couple of announcements. Anthony,
cool.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It was definitely awesome having this young Black king in the room, like crazy. I got to fix my lights because unless my tan is going from this summer, because I'm looking rather bright, Jesus. Just a couple of announcements. Don't forget today at 1 p.m. in just 2 hours, I'm coming back with Darren Howell and also did I make a flyer for that one? Lord jeez, I did make a flyer, but I don't think it's formatted, or is it? Hold on. It's not formatted for this screen. But we'll do this. I bet you I figure it out. So we're coming back at 1 o'clock today with Darren Howell, and also watch this. Stop playing. Oh, shoot. I should have took my name off. But we're coming back with Anthony Collins and Darren Howell today at 1 p.m. for another iteration of Freestyle Fridays. And so the 1 o'clock, I would suggest you get some mittens to hold your coffee cups or your Java cups, because this one is going to be hot, on fire, strong brew. We're going to debrief some stuff that Anthony referred to. Darren and Anthony and I just going to go a little bit deeper into some of the BS that went on, especially in District 6. But yep, we'll see you back today at 1 o'clock. Have a great day, everybody. Just a couple more comments before we go. Chip, Anthony, listen, this and Darren and I are just going to like and say it. Anthony says it with a smile that has numbers behind it, and then lets you draw the conclusion and then smiles. Anyway, celebrating all these wonderful Black kings that move in politics here in the city of Boston, celebrating queens like Jessica Pierre, my sister Brianna Millar is in a tech. Sorry, I couldn't make it. She's out there busy. We'll see you guys back today at 1 p.m. here for Freestyle Fridays on Java with Jimmy. Peace.